Welcome to downtown Madison, Wisconsin. In this video, I'm going to break down what the year of 2025 looked like as far as it goes with condo sales, downtown historic home sales. Also, we're going to dive into what we're seeing in development and any trends that we're seeing. So please stay tuned because I've got some interesting stats on some record-breaking sales that have happened in downtown condos in 2025. If you're new to this channel, you've never visited before, my name is Gladue. I'm a broker associate with Lauer Realty Group, and for my entire career I've been helping people buy and sell not only downtown Madison condos but also historic homes. One of the things I love is, having moved here from New York City and Minneapolis, Salt Lake, Washington DC, is I have a love and a passion for downtown, the restaurants, the bars, the music scene, all of it. So if you have more questions about living in downtown Madison, whether that be condo or historic home, I'd be more than happy to help with that.
Okay, let's take a look at the numbers when it pertains to downtown condo sales in Madison, Wisconsin in the year 2025. Now, when we say downtown Madison, what I do mean is that we're on an isthmus, so we're taking up a little bit of the east and a little bit of the west side, or if you will, near east, near west, as well as Capitol Square. There are a lot of condos in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. However, only 114 condo sales happened in 2025. The average price for a condo in downtown Madison was $620,000. The median price was $480,000. The median days on market was 8, and the average days on market was 32. So just over a month days on market when it goes to selling your condo. Now go to list to sale price ratio. So that means how much did the condo sell for versus how much was it listed for? 99%. So on average, most condos were selling for 1% below list price, which is very different from the single family home market where we see 101 to 102% being the average of what's selling. All right, so now we track back, because I like to look back a couple of years just to see how things differ. 2024 and 2023, as far as sales go, it's about the same. They're about 110 to 115 each of those years. The average price remained about the same at $500,000. And if you remember, I said I would let you know why these numbers were a little bit skewed in 2025. Okay, here's the breakdown for why numbers were skewed just a little bit in 2025. And that's because we saw more sales above $2 million than we have ever seen in the Madison, Wisconsin area. That's right, we saw 3 sales in downtown Madison, condos. Now, these are 3-bedroom, 3 baths that are a little bit larger than you might find in most of downtown Madison. And here's what we found out. So, did you know that there is a residence atop the Edgewater Hotel? In fact, there are a number of residences above the Edgewater Hotel, and one of those happened to sell in 2025 for $5 million, and it was on the market for less than a month. The other 2 sales, right around $2.4 million, and both of those were at the Lorraine. So if you've never seen the Lorraine, it's about a half a block off the square on West Wash. It is the historic Lorraine Hotel where lots of very famous people stayed. In fact, most of the floor plans are named after the people who stayed there. Anyways, we saw 2 of those sales. Now, those were penthouse sales, and those sold for $2.4 million. Again, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, very large condos. But this is the reason that we saw in 2025 the average price jump from that $500,000 where it had been in 2023 and 2024 all the way up to $620,000 from $500,000. All right, let's break it down even further, because I know that I have a lot of people when they relocate to Madison, or if they're looking for perhaps a child who's going to be a student at the University of Wisconsin, and they're constantly asking me, do people buy 1-bedrooms? The answer is yes. Actually, when we look across the board in 2025, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms are the most popular sales. And then only 7 3-bedroom condos actually sold in 2025. So if you're one of those people who's downsizing from those larger homes out in the suburban areas and looking for a 3-bedroom condo in downtown Madison, it's kind of like a needle in a haystack. So only 7 sales there. But good news, we saw a 1-bedroom now, granted, only 572 square feet. Very simple, very modest. That sold for $170,000. When you jump up into the true 2-bedroom, 2 baths right around Capitol Square, The average there, we start at about $450,000. So if you're thinking about getting into the downtown Madison, Wisconsin condo market, and you're wondering where it starts for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, that would be $450,000. Now, that large sale I told you about at the Edgewater Hotel, $5 million, that's a 3-bedroom, 3.5-bath, 4,000 square foot unit. It's almost like having one of those larger homes out in the suburban areas. So again, as I said, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, in fact, 2 studios actually sold. A studio, if you don't know and you're looking at condos, is actually a condo that doesn't have a dedicated bedroom. It's just kind of a big open space. Very common in New York City, Washington, D.C., all of the major cities. But yes, 2 studios actually sold, and those sold for above $275,000. That's how the numbers break down when you look at size and price. All right, I said I'd talk about home sales in downtown Madison, Wisconsin as well. And the reason that I call it historic home sales is because most of the homes that sell in downtown Madison, Wisconsin are part of a historic district. And if you don't know what that means, essentially what it means is you're allowed to do whatever you would like to on the inside of the home. However, when it comes to the outside, the facade of the home, the front and possibly the sides, it means that the city of Madison has a landmark commission that wants you to keep preservation of this facade at all times. That could be windows, it could be siding, it could be paint color, it could be any number of things, but the Landmark Commission takes control over what you're able to do on the exterior when it comes to the facade of the home. There were 41 home sales in downtown Madison, Wisconsin in 2025, and what I found interesting is that they're just a little bit above the rest of the Madison area. So the average home price is $590,000. The days on market are a little bit more than what you might find in all of Madison. So the average was 10 and the median is 34. One of the great things about living in a home in a historic district is you get to see exactly what the history of Madison is, and you get to hear the stories if it's been preserved correctly. And a lot of times you can actually look this up on the National Landmark Association website to see what homes have those actual plaques that you see when you're walking around. But just know that if you're looking for a home in downtown Madison, Wisconsin, more than likely you're looking at something that's going to be in a historic district. You're going to get some actual tax benefits from that, or some grant money even, if you go to do a renovation. But just know that there might be some hurdles if you're going to renovate that home. Again, 41 home sales in the downtown historic districts. $590,000 is the average price. New development going on in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. And contrary to popular belief, there have been absolutely no new developments as far as it goes for residential condos in downtown Madison, Wisconsin in 2025. However, you have seen a lot of cranes and a lot of high-rise buildings go up, and these are all apartments. I get phone calls all of the time, mostly from people who are out of state. And they're calling because they're visiting, and they're either coming in for college visits with their kids, or they're just visiting Madison because they want to feel what the vibe is of the town. And they're thinking about purchasing a condo because they're downsizing from, say, New York, Chicago, LA, Rockford, any one of those places. Anyways, what they're finding out is that all of these are apartments. The curious thing that I'm finding is the huge jump in vacancy rate. And if you don't know what vacancy rate is, that is when you take the number of units that are rentable and then take how many are unoccupied. And right now that's 10.2% in the downtown area. When you look back at 2021 and 2022, before some of these enormous buildings were built, that was at 2.1%. So you can see that's jumped quite a bit. And why is that? Well, let's take 2 buildings, for example. The first one is Baker's Place. Now, this is located right over by Bree Stevens Field. It's an excellent location. They have awesome amenities. All of these things ring true. However, if you're looking for a studio apartment, $2,400 a month is where those start. Somewhere around 500 square feet studio, which means it doesn't even have a dedicated bedroom. $2,400 starting for a studio. The other one we want to look at is called 109. Now, this has gained a lot of press lately because they just opened a food hall, if you will, and it's got a prime steakhouse. It's got all sorts of different food that you can pick from. And then it's got a lot of different apartments with a rooftop deck that also has a swimming pool. However, I have heard that the swimming pool only holds about 4 to 5 people comfortably. But then again, it looks out over Lake Monona, so it must be beautiful. A studio apartment there that is 450 square feet starts at $1,800. So you can see for those people who are looking to downsize from their huge homes out in the suburbs and they're looking for a place to live downtown. In fact, this is what they've been dreaming of. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll start in an apartment and then figure out which condo building they want to be in. But those larger apartments at both 109 and Baker's Place are starting around $9,000 a month. That's $9,000 a month. I'm not exactly sure what price home you could afford, but I'm guessing it's going to be right around an $800,000 to $900,000 condo, which will get you plenty in downtown Madison. That's what they're spending on month for rent. Now, some people like to rent simply because it's just easier. Rent may go up, but you have that flexibility of moving whenever you want to, whereas a downtown condo, you're in that place and you're gaining equity. However, if you want to move, you probably want to stay there a while to build up some of that equity. So again, new development in downtown Madison, Wisconsin is stagnant at the moment. Now, there are a few people talking about buildings right near Capitol Square that might be started in the next few years. But as far as I know, and I've been doing this for quite a while, there are no new developments happening in downtown Madison, Wisconsin, as far as residential condos go. And here's what I know. I moved here in 2001, and when I did, there were absolutely no condo buildings downtown or near Capitol Square, except for Capitol Point, which is a beautiful building, still exists, still has some great condos. But everything kind of rolled up at 6 p.m., and until about 2006, when we saw the restaurant scene explode, the bar scene, the music scene, all of those things started to kind of come to fruition, if you will. And these buildings like the Lorraine, which is a half block off Capitol Square, or 100 Wisconsin, which is right on Capitol Square and has gorgeous views of the Capitol from almost all the units, we didn't see any of these come up until then. And what's sad right now is that we don't have anything coming up that's going to be brand new and exciting from any of the developers. Now, part of this I get. When you go to build new condos, there's a 40% tax on each door. And so a lot of times people don't want that, or the lenders, commercial lenders who are lending money to these developers don't want the risk. However, there's one project just outside of Madison over on the Monona side. That's Basic Condominiums. Those are 2-story townhomes, and they range anywhere in size between, I believe, around 700 square feet all the way up to 2,500 square feet. That's a good option because it's right next to the Beltline and perhaps only 10-minute drive to downtown Madison. But right across the street, you've got Buck and Honey's, you've got Forage Kitchen, True Roasters Coffee. You've got all sorts of great things right there. So that's going to be the closest we have to new development when it comes to downtown Madison. Now, I hope that some of these projects come to fruition. And if you go to madison.com, there is a story that talks about actually having some of these large apartment buildings that are sitting empty be converted over to condos. Developers have that option to do this within a certain number of years. So you see all these brand new apartment buildings coming up. Well, they're sitting vacant, and we have a population of people who are over 65, and a lot of them who are looking to downsize, and they're coming from all over, not just in Madison, Wisconsin, but from all over, and they're looking for the convenience of condo living. So we might start to see some of these vacant or emptier apartment buildings that are brand new convert over to condos. And if that happens, you'll be the first to know because I'll be the first one to tell you about it and hopefully be on that marketing team. But either way, we need more housing as it is in downtown Madison for people who are looking to downsize and also for young professionals who live in Madison and want to be close to where the action is. I've had the great fortune of being on the marketing team for the two newest developments to go up in downtown Madison, and I got to cut my teeth at the Lorraine. The Lorraine is that historic hotel that I talked about earlier. But the latest developments in downtown Madison, Wisconsin would be Starliner, which is right across from Breeze Stevens Field, located on Mifflin Street, and then Barracuda, which is located right across from the Dane County Courthouse over on Henry Street. Both of these have done extremely well. And in fact, what we saw this year alone is at Barracuda, there were probably 2 or 3 resales, and people in that building who bought at the ground level were making $200,000 to $300,000 profit from when they purchased back in 2021, 2022. I will say this, living in downtown Madison has awesome perks. So the one thing about condo living is that you get to shut your door and then go wherever you'd like to. You also don't have to manage the grounds. You don't have to manage the insurance for the entire building. You don't have to replace roofs. You don't have to replace pipes. You don't have to do anything like that. What you get to do is enjoy concerts on the square, all of the amazing restaurants that are around Capitol Square, as well as the Farmers Market, the Sylvie, the High Noon, the Majestic, Breeze Stevens, and then you're a short distance over to places like Atwood Music Hall, the Barrymore, and Burr Oak. Downtown condo living is one of the special things that I think people don't get, because Madison isn't one of those major cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, where living in a condominium is just kind of, well, it's kind of what you do. But downtown Madison, Wisconsin is special in the fact that there's a lot of great people in the condo community, and I hope that you get a chance to check it out.
There you have it. That is your year in review 2025 for downtown Madison, Wisconsin condos and historic homes. If you found this information helpful, I hope that you'll subscribe to our channel, that you give it a like, and that you share it with your friends. And as always, glad you stopped by.